Hello there everyone. So Warhammer 3 has a lot of different AI factions when you're playing, and between all the different races, minor, major factions, it can be difficult to predict what the AI is going to do. It's a huge map. More importantly, whether they want to go to war with you as well. So let me see if we can help you predict that. First and foremost, we need to check some key elements in diplomacy. So when you open the diplomacy screen, there is some information you should be aware of. First, your threat value, which AI factions use to consider attacking you or not. It is a deterrent from them attacking you. Then we have the strength rating, basically the power of your armies currently in comparison with the other factions. Your reliability, which is in essence how much you keep your word towards treaties, alliances. If you betray someone, every AI will reconsider dealing with you. Then you have, of course, your current treaties with other factions, right? Over here, in this moment I only have, war with the Blue Vipers. And then the most important one, the attitude of other factions towards you. One important factor is aversion, which is a natural hate because of your race. Greenskins and Dark Elves, for example, have -40 aversion, and Lizardmen only 10 towards you. This changes depending on which faction, which race, etc. This should help you determine mostly who will likely become your friends or not. Should be noted that this does not immediately mean an alliance or war. For example, you even have a faction that hates you more than the Blue Vipers, but they are not at war with you. So, without further ado, let's start with the tips. Tip number 1, prioritize checking the attitude over treaties. Pact alliances are not as important as their attitude towards you. Green faces, red faces, they tell you more about the chances for war than any other metric. Of course, having treaties increases their attitude towards you, while having none does not help this, but the key point that I'm making is that the attitude is the main deterrent. For example, Purpose of Misrule. They have a treaty with me, they're trading, but their attitude is so poor that they are likely to break their treaty and declare war. So I better have some plan in case they do. So do not trust the treaty. Just trust the happy green faces, or mistrust the red ones. In this example with Kislev, I have a non-aggro pact with Averland, but they are just now having better attitude towards me, so I better keep an eye on this, It is also relevant in the sense that there's no need for you to spend gold or purchase these treaties, or, because they're likely to withdraw after 10 turns if they just dislike you anyways. For example, while Clan Molder here, they are not at war with me, but they dislike me so much, we are neighbors, they hate me, so they're likely to get into a war with me. I better make preparations. As soon as they don't have any other wars, they'll go after me. So, same thing with other neighbors, for instance, that dislike me, such as the War Grove of Woe, I hate that name. Just ensure that you're always checking who your neighbors are and whether they like you or not. Keep an eye for that. Just when you're in this viewpoint, you should always keep an eye on how many happy faces you see and how many dislike you. Tip number 2 is to balance your power with all the other factors. So in essence, you should understand that the AI's purpose for going for war is not to take you out, but to slow you down. You have a powerful deterrent for this, which is your armies and your power level overall. So here's Kairos, he's far away, but strength rank 2. He hates you, considers you a major threat, and likely as soon as we are neighbors, he will declare war, or even slightly before. Therefore, expanding towards Kairos will ultimately imply war, so ensure that you're ready before it begins. Compare that to Marathi, who considers you moderate. You should have no issue, unless you greatly expand in her direction, unless you have like 5 settlements neighboring her, then maybe it can become an issue. So overall, just remember to check once in a while how much of a general threat others consider you. Then you have Scarby down here, which is quite friendly. You can likely maintain this as an ally for a very long time if you play your cards right. Fight his enemies, and regardless of the lore, he'll be quite friendly to you. Now, you always have to ensure that you check your reliability, and you can more accurately predict when the AI is going to declare war. As the tip goes, power is a great deterrent, so let us see someone who truly hates us, Reichland. We have been waging war on them, we are currently at peace, but they have a ton of grudges on us, enough to make a dwarf blush. So they hate us, they consider us a threat. Why don't they declare? Well, because there's no opening. I have armies stationed near his lands, and as long as Reichland does not see an easy conquest, I should be fine. My power, especially my local power, is acting as a deterrent. Number 3 is to balance your expansion rate and positioning with your power. Now this is similar to the previous point, in that the more open ground your forces have to defend, the easier it is for the AI to consider it worthwhile to go to war with you. When you're neighbors to so many factions that hate you, even one of them deciding to declare war can create that cascade effect, which luckily did not happen for me here. Or was it that I did not push the issue and decided to defend in some places while only attacking in others in order to consolidate my power and gains? This is a difficult point to grasp and to explain, but overall you should have a good feel of where you can expand that will not bring you too many angry neighbors. Now you may ask, how is this a diplomacy tip? Well, just like in real life, being neighbors to someone means they get to know of you and may start hating you, especially if you play loud video games at 2 bloody AM. So now that I'm more powerful, I can divert those armies to the different fronts and continue expanding on my own terms. That's the point. Here's a poor example of expansion that can quickly go very bad. There are many possible enemies and fronts that can open, and I have just sent it way too far, leaving openings that some AI factions may use to attack me. So unless I have more armies placed defensively, my attacks on the dwarfs may prove to bring me into more wars than necessary and to a worse position. This is where I should have checked diplomacy, seen which factions could become aggressive soon towards me, and adapt to that information instead of just attack those dwarfs. Therefore, balance your expansion rate and evaluate your position with your current power and possibilities. Just make sure that you're not leaving a good opening for an enemy to just declare attack and cause a lot of damage. If these wood elves were expanding, I would be dead very soon and in a much bigger predicament than what I gained from the war. Tip number 4. Alliances are always a double-edged sword. Of course, having allies is always nice, but they will likely bring you into wars and issues, and you better be very well prepared for those. On this small example, I allied with Clark around, and they have a war with the Sisters of Twilight. They will likely declare war on me very soon, or they'll just expand towards me and they'll end up attacking me, or I have to go to war against them anyways. What am I gaining with this alliance? It may prove to be very little compared to the implications of a war versus the sisters. Literally, by having this alliance, it may be the cause of my entire path of conquest, and it can severely impact how this campaign is going to go. Because immediately I'm having to understand that I'll attack into the Witchwood likely, and then I'm gonna have to declare war on Katep because he'll be so close and he'll hate me, and then I need to set up maybe a defense to the north to avoid issues with Grombrindle, just because of a rather poor alliance. Now, of course, there are several advantages with alliances, particularly with the outpost mechanic, one of my favorites. Having access to different units, it's not only very efficient, as it is quite fun. Obtaining outposts can give you access to powerful units that will complement your forces in ways that your regular army roster cannot. Be sure to build outposts on the best location possible to obtain the best troops from your friend as quickly as possible. In the example of this Reichland campaign, I already showed some of the units that I have obtained, but I wanted to get some good cavalry, maybe some good flyers from Bretonnia, some good single entities or monsters or better infantry, maybe from Kislev, just to see how well those work with the Empire roster. So make alliances, yes, but just be aware of the dangers of getting into a very early alliance and the path of conquest that it will lead you into. Tip number 5, evaluate long-term effects before getting into trade deals. Now this is so important, especially in the early game. Here's one of the most blatant examples and the cause for many failed Reichland campaigns. I went on and got some nice trading going with the minor dwarf factions near me. All good, right? Well, not really. Not only am I not winning that much from trade to really justify this, these factions are also at war with Durthu. with powerful factions like the Bastogne, for example. With just 2 poor trade deals, I managed to successfully get poor relations with Durthu and Bastogne, and because races tend to like their own, I'm effectively getting worse relations with all Wood Elves in Bretonnia. Consider the long-term effects of the deals you're making, as they can have drastic consequences later on and force you into wars that you really should not be worrying about with just a little bit of attention to detail. I repeat, evaluate before getting deals. To summarize then, tip number 1, to prioritize attitude over pacts and treaties. Tip number 2, to balance your power with the other factors. Tip number 3, to balance expansion rate and your position with power. Number 4, alliances are a double-edged sword. And tip number 5, evaluate before getting into any deals. I hope this helps you guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.